Okay, welcome to the basic tutorial on how to create a room in any source SDK editor. The editor I will be using today is actually the Counter-Strike Global Offensive editor. In order to first start this up, you actually need to have the game installed, so be sure to install the game that you want to make maps for. As I said, I'm using Counter-Strike Global Offensive. After I have it installed, which I do, right there, I will go to the Tools section, and I will also install Counter-Strike Global Offensive SDK. Now this is already complete, so I will actually just open up the map, open up the SDK. And after opening up the SDK, I will open up this little tool right here, or application. It's known as Hammer World Editor, and it will open up Hammer. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to create a new map file. So I'm just going to go File, New, and you're going to want to save this as whatever your map want, or whatever you want to make your little map name. For the basic purposes of right now, we're going to be building a little room, so I'm just going to call this Test Room. Okay. If you notice, I put my cursor on this side of the screen. This is actually known as the camera view. It's a 3D view that you can set. Actually, it's already set as default settings. Another thing you can do is if you have your cursor in this part of the screen, you press the Z button, and you can use the WASD keys to move around in the editor as if you were in a first-person shooter or any type of game. This is actually a very useful tool, especially when you get into a lot quicker editing. So we need to create a room. First, what do we need to do? We need to create a block, or block the size of the room that we want. So I'm going to click this tool over here. This is known as the block tool. Actually, I don't even know. It's the brush tool, sorry. Brush tool. We're going to click on that, go to the grid, or I'm going to go to the top grid. And you'll see that a box shows up. Now, this box is exactly what you just created in the actual grid mode. There are 3 grids: the X, Y, and Z. This is the X grid. It shows you top view, actually. Sorry, this is X over Y, which shows you a top view of your map. This is a YZ view, which shows you from the Y-axis to the Z-axis. This is useful to see the height of objects, and shows this is just from a different angle. This is actually the XZ. Now, I'm going to make this 256 units, and there's a specific reason why. 256 units is larger than a human is in the game. I think the normal size for a human in-game is actually 96 units, and 256 is actually a normal room size. So I'm just going to make a small room here that is 256 and 1024 units wide. It's a nice little square. I'm going to press enter. Actually, whoops. I'm going to click the browse over here, and when I come into the filter, I'll type in no draw, and I'm going to double click on no draw, and I'm going to click this button. It applies a texture to every single face of the object. Now these are faces: face, face, face. Turns the entire thing into a no draw texture. Next thing you're gonna have to do is make a hollow. We're actually going to hollow out the box, because right now there's nothing actually inside of the box. So actually, you can click on the actual object right there, right click on it, and use the actual make hollow. Now when you click on make hollow, it's going to give you an option whether or not you want to hollow inward or outward. Inward is positive numbers, outward is negative numbers. Usually I hollow outward so I know where exactly I have the room set. You can do whatever you would like, but I'm going to put hollow outward, so I'm going to use a negative number, and negative 16 is a good number because it blocks all bullets going through walls, including AWPs or any sniper rifles. And now you'll see after I just finished that, inside there's actually a room. And there's actually a nice little cube on the outside so you can see where your room is in the map. Now obviously the room is very messy. Well, not even messy. There's no textures applied, so it's not going to even show up in game. No draw is a no texture tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this button over here, and you'll find the face edit sheet pops up. Now this is actually called the texture application tool. First I'm going to browse for the texture that I want. First I'm going to look for first I'm going to click on the actual texture that I want to change. Then I'm going to browse for a texture that suits my needs. For example, this will be floor textures. So I'll type in the filter floor, look for a nice floor texture. This one works. And I'm going to continue by clicking on the ceiling, looking for a ceiling texture by clicking on browse. And then type in the filter ceiling, and I'm just going to pick any random ceiling texture. Now keep in mind you can use this for the filter for any type of texture. It's going to work no matter what, so it doesn't really matter. So first, I want to get all these walls to be the same texture, so I'm just going to click on one wall, use the control button to click on another, and then when I press the Z button, I turn into the first person, and these walls are still selected, but I turn into the first person view. Holding control button, I click the other two faces. Now typing wall, and I'm just going to look for a random wall texture, doesn't really matter. And now you'll see that the actual wall texture is applied. Every wall texture is applied on every face, and it looks like a normal room, or at least like a very closed off room with no light, which is still a normal room. It has no light at the moment, but it'll automatically draw light when it's created. But first we're going to have to put a player in the map, because obviously you need a player in order to actually play the map. You need to spawn somewhere. So I'm going to click on the entity tool, and the first thing that'll pop up down over here in the objects area is the info player terrorist. Obviously that if you click on the 3D view anywhere in the actual map will make a terrorist. Oh, I don't know what the fuck happened there. Okay, sorry, I'm back now. So the first thing I'm going to do is, if you see the info player terrorist, and I am going to just click anywhere in the 3D view to place a terrorist entity down. This is actually called the entity tool. You can place any entities you would like, and I'll explain what entities are in just a second. So I'm just going to place the terrorist spawn, or the player spawn, right there. And that's where you'll actually spawn in game. This works for pretty much or it'll work no matter what. And if you're using Half-Life 2 or Portal, for example, you actually have to use the info player start tool. So you just click on this, look for info player start, and you can place an info player start. Now, since I'm in global offensive, I need to place both terrorist and counter-terrorist objects. So I'm going to once again click the drop down arrow and look for counter-terrorist as well. Now that I've placed counter-terrorist and terrorist, I'm just going to click file. Actually, first, 1 second. Alright, I'm just going to click file, run map. Now I want you to check this box down here. It's wait for key press when done compiling, just in case you get any errors, because I will be talking about errors in just a few minutes. You click OK. Now I didn't get any errors, but I'm just going to explain that if you got an error, this would be one major one which you would want to avoid. Whenever a part of a map is exposed to the blackness, I like to call it the void, but whenever it's exposed to the blackness, you will actually get something called a leak. Now, a leak is not a good thing. A leak is a very bad thing, just like in real life. Now, if I compile this map with the leak, I will actually get a leaked error up in the top, and it tells you from what entity sees a leak. So this would be an entity, and it probably sees the leak. In order to look for a leak, in case you couldn't actually find it, in order to see a leak, because if, for example, if this was very, very, very small but still open, it would still be a leak. In order to see that leak, I'm going to run it again. Alright. In order to see that leak, you would have to go to map load point file and just say yes. Now it's loading from the player start, but it actually gives you a direct line of sight to where that leak is. You do not want leaks, which I will explain. Leaks do not allow our map to compile correctly. It actually, if you ever try to put in lighting, for example, into your map, it won't calculate correctly because the light won't bounce correctly off of surfaces, and it will go into the blackness I like to call the void. You do not want that to happen, and that is a very easy way to find leaks and fix them. So I just fixed it by moving this back from here to here. Oh, here. And I'm just going to click run again and finish. If you don't get any errors, you're fine. I'm not getting errors. Well, this isn't really, that happens all the time. Don't worry about that. But I'm not getting any errors at the moment, and it looks fine to me. So go in game. You test it out by going or enabling console first, and then typing map, and then whatever you named your map as it. So mine, for example, would be map test room, and just type that into console, and you'll be able to play your map. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe in the bottom corner.